Hey champions, I hope you're doing well. It is Thursday, the last day of September, which is kind of a crazy feeling. This month went by a lot faster than I was expecting it to. So, did you get what you wanted to do done this month? I hope it was a very productive month for you. Alright, so what do I have to talk about yesterday? There wasn't a whole lot that went on yesterday. I've been seeing a lot of stores starting to host learn how to play events, open houses, that type of thing for Genesis. That's awesome. We want to be there to support them. If your local game store is interested in hosting that, tell them to reach out to us. Talk to them about the idea of hosting an event that can get a lot of new people just trying the game out. If your local game store hasn't even tried the game yet and you want them to, let us know and we will help them. We will work with you to get them a demo copy. The two of you can sit down, play the game, and see if this is a good fit for the community, for the store, for just everyone in the area. Because we know not every game is right for everybody, but Genesis is unique, and I'm hoping that with it, we can get a new set of players playing TCGs all over again. Alright, so today the topic I want to cover is it was a comment on yesterday's vlog by Ruby. So let me read that out and then we'll start addressing that. So, what do the different damage types mean? I've seen things like range damage, heavy damage, water damage, fire damage, etc. Do they work differently from each other somehow? Or is it more of a flavor theme sort of thing? So this is an interesting topic. This is actually one of the something I learned as I was going through the game design experience and watching other people talk about the successes and failures and things that they wish they had done differently in the games they created. And it came from a talk from Mark Rosewater, who is the lead designer or one of the lead designers for Magic the Gathering. And he talked about how what were his 10 or 20 things if he were to go back and redesign Magic, what does he wish he could have changed? One of the things he talks about is introducing the damage types and elementals. There's a lot of possible design space that you open up the moment you get elementals added in. So when I was in the early phases of designing Genesis, I realized that this is one of those things that's really, really hard to retcon into your game. To erase every single card and define the element type and make sure players can remember what the element types are as the game goes forward. This is, it's really hard to do that when you're several sets in. So it's better to have the elements there, have the foundation there, have all the tools of the trades there, so that when the moment comes that we want to turn on that ability, make that part of the game, then everything's already there. There's not a whole lot that needs to be added in. Sorry about that. My phone's right beside the microphone, so let me just... Alright. So, as of right now, elements don't do a whole lot when it comes to gameplay, when it comes to the entire experience. There are moments where it does matter, but as a whole, it doesn't. A lot of people, when they talk to me about this, they assume that there is a built-in abilities that come with each damage type, like how ice would freeze you or fire would burn you. Heavy damage, it does one thing. Genesis as a whole, I don't try to put in a lot of rules that are implicit. I try to make them as explicit as possible. So if the card doesn't state it can do something, it doesn't do that thing. So in the case of heavy damage is an interesting case where every attack that has the heavy attribute not only does heavy damage, but is also action speed. So that's a way we note that an ability is slower. And the idea there was like the Super Smash Bros. Charge attacks. They're the things that will normally knock your opponents out of the arena. You can charge them, they'll do a lot more damage, they're more likely to knock them out, but they're slower. Your opponent will see it coming. So that was the idea with the action abilities. All the elemental types, there's just finding other cards that synergize with it. So at the base foundation, this is about creating a mechanic that the game can play with, play around, and just develop itself with. So there's nothing inherent about it in the game. Every ability is explicit. Right now, if you're not building like an earth deck or a fire deck, it doesn't matter. But if you decide, I want to start running the pillars, or I want to find a way to give my opponent an elemental weakness and build a deck around that, then that's what the elements are for. They're just another tool in your tool chest to build decks around. So I hope that answers your question. Actually, my spotlight card of the day really digs into that. So let's jump into that. Let's talk about Dark Brand. This is a good example of the first time an elemental themed deck was composed. So I've mentioned before, and a lot of people know of it, it's the Rain OTK deck. And it built around dark damage. A key component of that is the fact that Rain's built an attack does 3 dark damage. And then there's another card out there called Shadowclaw that synergizes with that. So let's talk about Dark Brand, what it does, how good it was, the amazing artwork that goes behind it. So at 5G, Chaos card, a Dark Brand is a technique. Swift Speed, Arena Dark Brand for 1 health and 3 energy. Everything without Dark Weakness gains Dark Weakness this round. So Dark Weakness is all dark damage dealt to this card is increased by 1. The artwork done by Damian, a card created by Carl. Let's look at that artwork because I love Damian's artwork. He does a great job bringing these champions to life and putting together a picture that really encapsulates not just the mechanics of the card, but also a feel of who the characters are and why you should be afraid of them. This card did have its original printing in Welcome to Jalara. It was played a lot then, and it's slowly lost a little bit of its favor, but we decided to reprint it in J2. So let's talk about its reprinting in J2. First and foremost, from the design team's perspective, we have nothing against round 1 turn kills. We have something against round 1 kills. That's something we're trying our best to build in ways for players to get around that, stop them, and, be alive for longer than just a few minutes. But 1 turn kills, those are things that we have nothing against them in the game. Dark Brand is actually a very key fundamental part of that equation in the Rain OTK, because using as little resources as possible to output the most amount of damage is essential. If you're hitting your opponent with 4 or 5 different attacks, Dark Brand itself then is doing an additional 4 or 5 damage. This is very, very helpful for the Rain deck. Like I was saying when I was talking about the elementals, Dark is one of the elemental types. It is seen on, we talked about Rain, we talked about Shadowclaw, Tattered Remains, Demon's Rage. There's a whole bunch of cards that do dark damage. Dark Brand really helps bring those decks together and gives them a chance to have 1 turn where they just output as much damage as possible and really devastate your opponent. So, does this card still see play? I don't know. A lot of people who are still running the Rain OTK. It had a big splash at the championship. Tournaments these days have been relatively quiet, or not quiet, but they're being hosted, they're growing, but I haven't seen anyone run the OTK deck. It's not something that is very popular right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's a very fragile deck. If it works great. When it doesn't work, it tends to struggle a lot more than most decks. So if you're planning to bring it into the tournament, think about how you can accommodate the fact that if your deck isn't working, you still need to find a win condition. You still need to find a way to put the pressure on your opponent. That being said, I think that's everything I really have to talk about when it comes to this card. It really does show how elementals could be a big component of the game. I know for Origins, we are planning a lot more cards to synergize with different elemental types. So, and we will continue to add little pieces to the puzzle as we're trying to understand how to put in synergy with the element types without creating more and more OTK decks. We're trying to create decks that can be defensive or can be it can just survive for a longer time. So I think there's a lot of type of decks that are going to be coming out in the next little while that really challenge the status quo of what an elemental deck means to the game. That's everything I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you had a wonderful September and that you're excited for October. There's a lot of cool announcements that we're going to be making in the next few weeks, so make sure you tune in, watch all of these vlogs, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.